Last year I was in Africa, Masai Mara, for wildlife photography, and one evening we were on a safari, and we saw this cheetah cub lying alone, and we saw this majestic lion approaching it very cautiously. And my guide told me that the mother cheetah was probably away hunting but wasn't too far. And before the lion could get too close, we saw about 4 or 5 cheetahs coming and surrounding the cub and just sort of protecting it. And I looked at the lion, and all of a sudden it sort of lost its majesty and it turned around and started walking in the other direction. Now, I was very amused, and I asked my guide as to how the king of the jungle had stepped back. And so he looked at me and said, well, it was a group of cheetahs, so that's how it works in the jungle. And this summer I was at an internship in Delhi with the media house, and I did a lot of reading, and I questioned a lot of things that made me angry. I'm sure most of you do. You think about, how did so-and-so get away with that, or is that okay, is that not okay? We all do. So I asked my boss, and he said, well, that's how it works in society. And I remember thinking, wait, aren't you and I what makes up society, that we are what society is, and so if something was to go wrong, it obviously comes from us. And well, things haven't gone wrong just now. Things have been going wrong for a very, very long time. Back in 1996, a young law student, Priyadarshini Madhu, was found raped and murdered at her residence in Delhi. The prime suspect in this case, Santosh Kumar Singh, was a man who belonged to a family with a lot of power and opulence, and because of his background and his ability to tamper with the evidence, eventually the judge, after all that interrogation, had to acquit him. The judge said in court that he knew that Santosh Kumar was the man who had killed her, but because of a lack of evidence, he had to let her go. And I remember thinking, how is that legit? I mean, the judge knows he's done it, he knows he's done it, 30 people standing in the courtroom know he's done it, but because of a lack of evidence, they had to let him go. And this man had been harassing and stalking this woman for 2.5 years, and just because his infatuation wasn't satisfied, he felt he could get away with murdering her. 3 years from then, another case, Sanjeev Nanda, then a student at the prestigious Wharton Business School, ran over 6 people while driving home intoxicated from a party in Delhi, and 3 of which were policemen. He too belonged to a family with a lot of power and wealth, and I remember he went home and the bloodstains were washed off the car, all the evidence was abolished, and eventually by 2003, all the witnesses had turned hostile. There wasn't one person who was willing to admit that Sanjeev Nanda was the man behind that wheel that night who drove over 6 people. And eventually the apex court reduced his sentence from 5 years to 2 years, which he had already spent, and 50 lakhs compensation, which is probably peanuts for his family. Oh, and community service. Now, for a charge as serious as culpable homicide not amounting to murder, which as per our constitution has a penalty of 10 years or life imprisonment, this man got away with in 2 years. In the very same year, there was another case where this young model was bartending at a party in Delhi, and this young gentleman, sorry, did I say gentleman? That's definitely the wrong word to use. When this arrogant man walked into the party and demanded a drink. The bar had been closed, so she refused to give it to him simply because there wasn't any. So he got angry and he took his gun out and he shot her. He shot her because she refused to give him a glass of his drink. Now, if you look at all of these 3 cases that I've spoken about and you join the dots, there are really some similarities which stand out. The first and the most important one being the abuse of power. Now, all of the 3 criminals belong to families with a lot of power and wealth, and therefore they feel that they have the right to do it, or more importantly, to get away with it. Santosh Kumar Singh was the son of J.P. Singh, who was at that time the Joint Commissioner of Delhi, the very city in which this crime was committed. Sanjeev Nanda was the grandson of Admiral Nanda, the Indian Navy chief, and Manu Sharma was the son of a member of parliament. Another important similarity being the role of media. In all of these cases that I've spoken about, eventually the criminals did get punished and the victims got justice, but that was mainly because of the role that the media played of a watchdog. There was investigative journalism carried out. There was so much public outrage because of what the media was showing. I remember in the case of Jessica Lal, Manu Sharma admitted to shooting her in the initial stages of his interrogation, and that clipping was never shown in court. But it was aired by NDTV, by Tehelka, by Star News, and that obviously angered the public. There was also a clipping of, in the Sanjeev Nanda case, of both the lawyers bribing witnesses, which was also shown by NDTV. Now, all of that caused this massive public outrage and helped in shaping the public opinion, which eventually led to justice. The third point being, which is actually a very fundamental question, is justice delayed, justice denied? I mean, 14 years, 10 years, 11 years, the families are fighting for years together, struggling. They don't even know if they would ever get a sense of closure and justice. And eventually when they do, it's probably too late. The last point being that all of the victims belong to a strata of society which seems to be oppressed by this apparently powerful and upper class. Priyadashri Mattu was a law student in Delhi. Jessica Lal was a nobody. She was a 34-year-old model in Delhi. And Sanjeev Nanda ran over 6 people that night, 3 of which were footpath dwellers. They slept on the footpaths not because they chose to or wanted to, but because they simply didn't have a roof over their heads. Now, I mean, I'm not going to stand here and be idealistic or romantic about this. Things will not change. People in positions of power who misuse it will continue to abuse their power. The only way that things can change is if the change comes from us. I mean, I want to leave you with 2 things today. The first thing being, all of us here have a responsibility. Everyone who's here and listening to this has a responsibility to be powerful. I'm not saying don't be powerful and use it well. All of us have power. I mean, I could have power over my 8-year-old sister. Your boss could have power over you in office. You could have power over domestic health you have at home. So yes, be powerful, but use it in the right way. I've just given you examples of people who misuse and abuse their power, but that's not how it should be. I mean, the drug morphine is used by doctors to help relieve pain of cancer patients, but it's also used by drug addicts for other reasons. So something in itself isn't right or wrong, it's just how you use it that determines its efficiency, and the same goes for power. The second point being that all of us, it's really about the fear that we all have for this upper, powerful class. If we stop fearing them, if we can come together using tools like media, which are just phenomenal, then we can definitely leave them defenseless. And honestly, I think society is a lot like the jungle. And if we can come together, even a lion would step back when faced with a coalition of cheetahs. Thank you for listening.